Hi, this is John Rosenhead, a Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week's Torah and Psychology post Pashas Emor and the war in Israel is going to discuss imperfection in relationships. In this week's Pasha, we read about the Kohen Gadol, that the Torah says that the Kohen Gadol must be free from any physical blemish, any physical defect, which on face value seems a little bit confusing. It's perhaps intolerant or not accepting or accommodating for people's defects or physical defects, that he should be disqualified from being a Kohen Gadol. And moreover, if we look at the Gemara in Sanhedrin, we learn that a Dayan, a judge for death penalties, for capital punishments, also needs to be free from any blemish, including physical blemishes, physical defects. So what is it? What is it about the Kohen Gadol or a judge for capital punishment that they are expected to have this standard of perfection, which in general, if we look at the Torah, we look at the Hashkafa, it's not something which we expect. We live in a human world. Our existence, our reality is that determined by our human frailties, which includes defects and imperfection. So what is it about the Kohen Gadol and the Dayan? And what can we learn out based on our understanding and the psychological literature which looks at relationships? Because the Dayan in particular, the judge, the requirement for his perfection is learned out from a pasuk in Shir Hashirim. Shir Hashirim being the text, the sefer, which is the way that the representation of the relationship, the unique relationship between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Bnei Yisrael. And the pasuk says, Hashem says to the Bnei Yisrael, Kulech yafar yasi umum ein bach. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you are perfect. And the Gemara learns out that just as a judge needs to be perfect in his judgment, in his tzedek, so too he needs to be clean and perfect from any blemish, any physical defect as well, or any blemish in a sense. So the Kohen Gadol and the Dayan, we can based on this idea of a Shir Hashirim, and we can just elaborate on this to understand that they have a unique relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. There is something special and perhaps a higher level or elevated sense of a connection with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And this perhaps is because they represent the whole of Klal Yisrael to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, or maybe more accurately, the other way around. That they are representing a Kodesh Baruch Hu to the whole of Klal Yisrael. And in a relationship, we know that it's two sides, two people coming into a relationship, each with their own unique circumstances, with their unique qualities, and they bring it into relationship to create something together. And the relationship of the Kohen Gadol and the Dayan, based on this elevated understanding, this higher, unique quality, is that they are having a relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu who is perfect. And in this sense, perhaps the requirement of the Kohen Gadol and the Dayan within the dynamics of this relationship is they too have to be perfect. Otherwise, the representation, their duty, their role doesn't work, or is not effective, or it's not a accurate representation of the relationship they have with the Kodesh Baruch Hu who is perfect. If there is a physical imperfection in the Kohen Gadol or the Dayan, there's something which is lacking in this relationship, in the circumstances of this unique relationship that Kohen Gadol and the Dayan have with the Kodesh Baruch Hu who is perfect. But if we take this out of the context of a Kohen Gadol and a Dayan, we understand that the bottom line is that in a relationship there's two sides, and two sides joining together. And we have to understand the dynamics of this interaction within the marital relationship. Within the literature that's looked at marital relationships, there's an understanding of this dynamic, this two-way street. Everyone brings in their own package of unique qualities, but also defects. And I think this is in particular, based on this, what we're talking about here, is that imperfection in relationships is actually the norm. For the Kohen Gadol and the Dayan, perhaps we actually have the exception to the rule. But normally in relationships, in marital relationships, each person comes in and brings their imperfections. Imperfection is part of relationships. And indeed, the Imago theory, understands actually that this is what brings two people together, that they find somebody, their partner, their husband or wife, is actually somebody who is going to be someone that actually challenges these defects, that they bring into a relationship certain, you could say, childhood wounds, certain aspects that from their childhood, which is just going to be part of the reality of of childhood, no parent is perfect, and there are certain aspects that perhaps a child needs to find some way to heal or to mend or to make complete through their relationship with their husband or their wife. And it works both ways, but each person finds a spouse that in some way is similar, based on imago theory, that their spouse is similar in a way to the family that they were raised in, their parents, the dynamics and characteristics of their parents, and this is something that they look to try and find a way to heal. It's a relationship which certainly exposes a person's defects, creates the challenge, brings it to the table, and allows and creates an opportunity, an arena to find healing and growth through this relationship. So defects and imperfection is actually part of the makeup of marriage, part of the makeup of a relationship. And it's through this that we're able to grow and create something new and whole. So although from this week's Parsha we can understand that there is a level of perfection in relationships with the Kodesh Baruch Hu through the Kohen Gadol, but what we want to try to understand and try to accept and acknowledge in relationships is the imperfection in relationships, which is an opportunity for growth. And this is part of the dynamic which cannot be in any way ignored. And so a lot of the arguments and a lot of the challenges that comes out in a relationship is because a person doesn't acknowledge the defects that they have, and they only understand or view the defects perhaps of their spouse. But if we can see the two-way street, that the imperfection in relationship is part of the creation of something whole, that will be the key to being able to create an effective and functioning and loving relationship. Have a great Shabbos and keep well.